So how exactly can you actually stop working for money? And to calculate this, I'm actually going to be using the crossover equation or graph, okay? And the idea is you want to get to a certain point where you make more money passively than you actually need to spend. And I have a full video on this, guys, to actually explain this, but the concept is pretty simple. It's not that complicated. Right here, you're seeing a graph, and the blue line is your active income. The yellow line is going to be your fixed expenses, and the red line is going to be your passive income. Now, if you can see right here around the month of December, that's when the crossover actually happens. That's when you're actually able to say, hey, I make more money from passive income than I actually need to spend. And at that point, you can stop working for money because passively you make more money than you actually need. Now, that's that equation. I have a full video about that if you want to learn how to do it and how you actually get all the math done. I'll put that link down below in this video. But overall, I actually want to go into detail here. Now, to actually get this done, you're going to need to capture 3 things about your life. That's going to be your active income. Well, how much money do you make for a trading time for money? So if you look back to the past 12 months of your life, so right now it's March, go back all the way to March of last year or down to February of last year. So you have a full 12 months if you haven't fully been paid this month or the month when you're actually watching this video. The answer is, well, how much money have you made every single month after taxes, okay? Now, once you calculate that, you're probably going to see a trend. Most likely, if you work on a salary basis, it's probably going to be the same amount of money, usually. How do you check this? Check, for example, your bank statement and see every time money came in. It's not that complicated to actually do. But then you also want to calculate exactly how many hours you have been working to make this much money. So if you work a 9 to 5, most likely you work around 160 hours every single month, which is nearly 2,000 hours every single year, which is a lot of time. And the goal should be, well, how do I get to a point where I'm not working at all to actually make any money? Because why would you want to work for money, right? There is no benefit except the money you get. And if you have money, then you no longer have to work for money. It's that basic. Now, here is the hidden cost to actually make money that most people don't calculate. So, for example, let's say you actually do work 160 hours every single month, okay? That's with a regular 9 to 5 job. Now, most people will look at that number and basically say, well, that's pretty average, that's pretty normal, and I make, let's say, $4,000 a month, right? So once you divide that number by 160, you get 25 bucks an hour. But most people don't know that that's not the only cost or the only payout to have a job, right? To get active income, there are several other investments you have to consider. There's the money you invest to actually get to work. That means time to get to work. So if you have a long commute, that's time. If you have a vehicle that you're actually paying for to get to work, that's money that you're spending on that vehicle. If you have clothes you have to buy to get to work, that's money and time you spend to actually buy the clothing you actually need. If you have, for example, a home where you're paying extra money to live closer to work, well, guess what? That's also money. There's also the leisure time you have to spend once you're done with work, because if you don't, you'll probably go crazy. There's also the vacations you have to go on to actually rest your mind. The point is, there are a bunch of hidden costs to actually have a job. And once you calculate all those extra hours and money you're actually spending, sometimes it might even be an extra 10 hours every single week you're actually spending in order to actually have that job. So if you go from thinking you're just spending like 160 hours a week to actually keep your job, and you go to say, hey, I actually spend an extra 40 hours every single month, that's 200 hours, okay? And if you divide 4,000 by 200 hours, well, guess what? You're not getting paid 25, you're actually getting paid 20 bucks. Now, there's a great book on how to calculate all this stuff. It's called Your Money or Your Life by Vicky, and it's a great book, and it goes into detail. Some people have gone from thinking they're making 20 bucks an hour to just seeing they're making more like $7 or $10 an hour once they actually associate all the hidden costs to actually keep that job. Now, that's very important. So once you have that math done, and by the way, keep it simple, just do how much you've made and do your regular hours, because to get all the hidden costs is going to take too much work and you probably don't have that time right now. but I do recommend you read that book by Vicky. It's amazing. Now, the second thing, guys, is going to be your fixed expenses. Now, you want to calculate what? Shelter, utilities, groceries, and transportation. Those are the 4 main expenses every single person has usually, okay? Now, it's not that complicated. How much money do you spend on rent or your mortgage? How much money do you spend on utilities, gas, electricity, internet, water bill, and so on, and things you actually need? And then on groceries, how much do you spend there? And on top of that, lastly, your transportation, whether it's like you have a car, you have gas, you have insurance, you have maintenance, all these things to actually worry about. And that's going to be your cost of living. Now, the goal is to make enough money from passive income to cover your cost of living. So how much money do you have right now that makes you passive income? If the answer is 0, that's fine. But you actually want to start increasing that. Now, what are the options here that you actually have available? Let's say you actually decide you want to be like me, and I put my money into stocks. Specifically, I only invest into the S&P 500. That's my only investment, the only one I do. And that makes me about roughly 10% every single year. But the idea is, if I take 10% of my investment profits every single year, but sometimes the market doesn't return 10%. It might return a negative number, meaning I lost money that year, or it might make 5% instead of 10%. So I can't just take 10% every single year. I need to take around like 4%. That's why they call it the 4% rule. That way your money has a higher likelihood, around like 97%, of actually lasting you a lifetime, which is pretty good. But for the most part, that basically means this. Here's a simple equation to find out how much money you need in stocks to actually cover your cost of living. So if my cost of living every single month is about $3,000, here it is. You want to multiply it by 12 to get the annual cost, which is basically $36,000, and then just multiply it by 25, okay? That's all you need to do. That's the only math you're doing here. Multiply by 25, that tells me I need to have around $900,000 invested to actually be able to cover my cost of living from stocks by taking out 4% of that portfolio every single year. Now, here's the second thing you want to do, because it's not going to stop there. Because guess what? You need to use a compound interest calculator to run these numbers. So I want you right now to go on Google and type in compound interest calculator. And the one you actually want to use is going to be the one by investor.gov, because it's not special, but it's because it has like a special graph which actually helps you out a lot. So right here, let's say my initial investment is $0 because I have no money. Let's say my active income is $4,000, but my cost of living is $3,000. So meaning, hey, I have $1,000 to be investing every single month. So monthly, I'm investing around $1,000. And then let's say I'm going to be doing this for 30 years. Again, don't worry about the time. I'm not asking you to go ahead and work your butt off for 30 years to then passively say, I'm no longer working for money. It just cost me about 3 decades. That's not the goal here either, okay? But I just want you to see something, okay? So if I'm making 10% a year, and I click right here where it says calculate, you want to ignore this number of 1.9 million because it's literally how much you'll have in 30 years, but that's not what's important, okay? Because remember, the number we're going for is actually $900,000. That's the number we actually care about. So you want to go on this graph and you want to spot where you're actually going to have $900,000. And the answer is, at least here, you're going to reach $900,000 at around year 23. Now, is that optimal? To wait literally like 23 years to finally say, I'm no longer working for money? The answer is, for me, it's not. For me, this limit is not worth the squeeze. I am not willing to trade 20 years of my life to actually say, now I'm finally not working for money. So how can you actually speed this up by a lot? The answer is, you want to cut your cost of living drastically to the things that you actually need, the things that actually make you happy. You want to be a frugal person. Frugality is someone that gets what they need and isn't worried about having too much, or also you don't want too little. You want the things that actually you need, okay? At a certain point, having more things loses its touch. It becomes like, it doesn't really give you fulfillment anymore, all right? So that's the goal. So I need to lower my cost of living. What are some things I can do? Okay, I can cut my subscriptions. I can pay off my car or sell my car, buy a cheaper one. I don't have a payment anymore on that. I can lower my shelter bill by either moving to another rental or, for example, trying to pay off my current home faster or selling that home and basically buying something cheaper. These are all things I could do to lower my cost of living. Now, the overall goal would be, it's not like you're going to be depriving yourself. But the goal is to get what you need. Do you really need to have a 4-bedroom house with more bathrooms than people? The answer is no. Do you need to live in the fanciest neighborhood? The answer is no. Do you need to have a Cayenne Porsche? The answer is no. Do you need a Lexus or a Tesla? The answer is no. You can do just fine with a little Toyota. You can do just fine with a good home. You can do just fine with many things. Now, that basically means if your cost of living is reduced, you're going to need a lot less money. All right? So let's do the math all over again, but with a reduced expense. Okay? So if you go from needing like $3,000 a month to only needing around $2,000 a month, because hey, you're going to have to buy a home that's cheaper. You might switch states, you might move somewhere else, whatever you need to do. I've seen people that to get this done, they switch countries. People that went from living in the US, living in Fiji, to living like in Mexico, to living like me here in Dominican Republic. Because guess what? Here, I don't have to spend that much money. My fixed costs right now in Dominican Republic are around $1,072. And you do have remote works, jobs that you're actually able to do. Now, would I recommend switching countries for the sake of being able to not work anymore? I think that's subjective, and I think that's up to you. And I personally did it, and I actually like it a lot. But if you like where you live, and that's where your roots are, and that's where your family is, then you want to find a way to lower your cost of living. Because I'm pretty sure not every single person where you live has the level of expenses you do, right? Because you can always find someone that's living in your area for less. So you want to copy that person in a way. But if you only need $2,000 a month to actually live, well, a year, that's going to be only $24,000, right? Now, that means that, hey, again, multiply your cost of living annually by 25, and that means you only need around $600,000. Now, the same math, the same equation, to actually get to a level of $600,000, well, that's going to be happening instead of at year 23, at year 19, except you're not just investing $1,000, because if you are living off $2,000 and you make $4,000, well, now you can invest $2,000, which is actually double. If you could calculate, again, ignore the 30-year mark, you'll have a lot of money, yes, but the goal is how long until I can actually not have to work anymore? The answer is that's going to be at around year 13. That is a lot less time, or year 14 if you want to be exact. Now, what else can I do to actually cut this time in half? I think the best strategy, guys, overall, is not to try to fully stop working, okay? But instead to just work less. And to be able to work less, there are some things you need to do. You need to try to make as much money as you possibly can from the skills you actually have. You need to stop trying to be loyal to to companies and employers, and instead just trying to worry about yourself on the level of money you can actually make. If you can go from earning $20 an hour to 25 to $30 an hour by making a quick trade of jobs, the answer is that's probably better. Now, when you do switch jobs, I think the big thing is going to be this, okay? Instead of saying, well, if I make $6,000 now and I keep my cost of living at $2,000, then I can invest $4,000 a month, right? That's one way to go about it. And guess what? If you actually do that, instead of actually taking 13 years or 23 years, for example, you'll be able to get to the number of $600,000. Well, in about like 9 years or so. Now, is that cool? The answer is yes, it is cool. But another thing that you could do is say, well, instead of, if I'm making $6,000 now, and guess what? If you make $6,000 a month and you work 160 hours a month, that's around $37 an hour that you're actually making. So what can you do? Well, if you only need $2,000 a month, right? And let's say you want to make like $3,000 because you want to keep investing, right? For the long term or whatever. Well, if you can make $3,000 a month and you're making $37 an hour, you only need to work now 81 hours a month, right? So that means if you're able to earn more, it doesn't have to be directly invested. You could use that extra earning to cut your hours and have a lot more free time. That way, instead of going to work for like full time, now you're only going part-time because you're earning more money, and you also cut your cost of living, and you'll also get to your overall goal to have passive income like soon, like in 13 years or so. That's fine. But for the next 13 years, instead of having to trade a third of your life every single day, you only have to trade about 4 hours and then get what you need and then just go home and spend the next 20 hours sleeping and doing what you actually want, the work you actually care about, like community, your family, or playing golf, whatever it is you actually want. That is the idea. It's not about just getting there faster, but also being able to hack your way through it so you can have a lot more idle time to actually appreciate, okay? This video is not just about like make more money, work more to get what you want, but it's if you can make more money, you can work less and you can get what you want also. That's the idea, okay? I think this is very powerful, and I think if you do it, you can actually get ahead. And I just reached this threshold. I think it was like last year when I was actually able to do the crossover point where my passive income actually surpassed my income. Now that basically means, my expenses, which that basically means I can now work a lot less and spend a lot more time doing the things and working the work I actually love doing the most, like learning and teaching and the Bible and the church and the community and the family and the grandparents and everything else that I actually love doing, I'm passionate about. And guess what? This is a form of work. Only difference is it might not pay me to actually do it, but it's what I want to do. So that's the idea. Yeah, guys. So thanks for watching this video. Retirement overall is not about not like stop working, but it's more about stop working for money. Now, one thing that's very important as you're doing this whole thing, I highly recommend you try to get out of debt first. Second, you save up for your emergency fund. That way you have like a safety net, and then you worry about investing, and then you worry about, for example, paying off your main expense, which is going to be a house. The reason I don't need that much money is because I have enough money to pay off a home and pay for it in cash. That was a big sacrifice that I had to do to actually get that much money. But the answer is, well, not per se, because where I live, I don't need that much money to build a house. I can build a house with like $6,000 or like $80,000. So that's very important for you guys to actually know. It all depends where you actually want to live. You know, if I lived in New York and the average house was like in the Bronx, for example, and the average house was like $700,000, and I'm paying in rent like $2,000, and I have some crazy job that makes me a lot of money, but I spend everything on taxes and living expenses, then I have a big question to ask myself. This is my situation, this is where I live, but why do I live here? And why do I want to stay here? And if I can't come up with a good answer, and the answer can't be my job, because the job is just for money. So if the job makes you a lot of money but you spend it all, it's not worth it because you haven't to trade your time for money. That's not worth it. But if you can literally switch states, go to Florida, maybe go upstate New York, or go, for example, Texas or somewhere else where your cost of living is a lot lower, and you're able to work less and make a good amount of income, then the answer is that would probably be a better idea overall. But it's something to consider. It's not a decision to make overnight. It's something to pray about, honestly, and to just like think it through thoroughly, because moving for the sake of money is a big decision, okay? But in this case, it's not really just about money, it's about time and having a lot of free time. And by the way, there is no guarantee that you'll be able to make money by doing what you like. And you don't have to, because work is about getting paid, and you want to maximize the amount of money you make. And then you also want to lower the amount of hours you need to basically work to pay for the things you need to cover. Life is not about having more things and about traveling everywhere, about having the best cars, having the biggest house. It's not what life is about. Life is about basically having what you need, not a ton more, not less, the maximum amount you need to be fulfilled in a way, and then being able to spend the time that you actually have free to do the things that you actually care about. It's not about just working, not about just career. Those things have become like a phenomenon these days. You know, everybody just like cares about work and career and growing in a company or whatever. But the whole point to working is making money, and the whole point to money is taking care of your cost of living, and the whole point to having extra time is to use that time to do the things that you actually want. You know, money, careers do not earn you respect, does not give you real fulfillment or happiness in a way. These are just like things we do to make money. And you have to separate wages, which you do to make money, from what work actually is, which is purpose and fulfillment that you can actually get from a lot of things that don't pay you. You know, I used to think, and I'm going like on this tangent here towards the end of this video, but I used to think that I was going to get my fulfillment and happiness from a job, but then I realized I get that from my family. I get that from my church. I get that from my community. I get that from my friends. I get that from doing things I like, you know, sometimes watching a movie or going to like a restaurant or, you know, like having things that actually give me fulfillment. It's not going to be giving my time to a business, whether it's mine, or a job, whether it's in my employer's or a company, and feeling like I'm climbing the corporate ladder. For what? You know, so that's the main thing, guys, okay? I'll see you guys next time, though. Something to think about. Read that book. It's very good. Your Money, Your Life by Vicky. Peace.